Hello, guys. Today we've got an absolutely fantastic episode with a previous Summit Strength client, Mark Tangent, who has just officially posted a fastest known time of an unsupported hike in which he tackled 130 miles over 5 days. Now, he's got some really great insights into how he went about his preparations, how he went about his planning, and then how he got through hiking over a marathon worth of distance every day for just about 4 days. So really good episode if anyone's ever thought of sort of pushing the limits a little bit with their hiking or setting themselves a bit of a challenge or even doing something as big as this. It's definitely valuable listening. So let's get into it. Hey, my name is Rowan Smith and I want to welcome you to the Training for Trekking podcast. Now, this is the world's very first podcast which is entirely dedicated to helping you train, prepare, and conquer your upcoming hike, trek, or mountain adventure. So once a week, I'm going to be giving you quality and practical information on the subjects of physical preparation for trekking, dealing with altitude, and nutrition on the trail, so you can know everything you need to be doing to have the best chance of a safe, enjoyable, and successful adventure. So now you know what you're in for. Let's get into today's episode. All right, welcome, Mark. Welcome to the show, mate. Very excited to have you on.
Thank you, Rowan. I'm excited to share with you, and thank you for the work that you helped me to get this challenge of mine accomplished. So cool.
No, this is going to be awesome. You've done a really cool hiking challenge, which I think a lot of listeners are going to be very interested about how you approached it, how you prepared for it, and also sort of the things you went through when you're actually on this big, long days of hiking on the trail. So I think this is going to be really, really cool to explore, and a lot of people are going to, really enjoy this, I think. So essentially, to kick things off, do you just want to give us a bit of background about yourself? Where are you from? What do you do? And what's your background in hiking?
Sure. So I live in the great state of Michigan in the United States. Have been here a good part of my life. Went to high school out in New York State and stuff. But I work as a financial planner now, helping families and individuals plan for retirement and all their financial needs and giving them a good education in that. I guess my background kind of goes back. As a kid, I was involved with Boy Scouts. And many, many years ago, we didn't do a ton of hiking. We did a lot of camping and stuff. And I think when our hiking stuff ramped up is when, in 2012, my wife and I sold our house out in the country, acreage and all that stuff, and decided to do a change and moved right in the middle of downtown in our medium-sized city and stuff. And we just really needed to get out and exercise and do more. And that's kind of when we found walking was a great passion for us. And then I found the trail that I like to hike so much called the North Country National Scenic Trail, or just the North Country Trail. And it's the longest of the national scenic trails in the United States. It's 4,600 miles, or about 7,400 kilometers long. It's huge. Goes through 8 states, goes from Middlebury, Vermont to the middle of North Dakota, and goes right through all of our state, almost 1,200 miles through Michigan and stuff. So it's not too far from our home, and there's just a beautiful section through what's called the Manistee National Forest, and it goes about 130 miles through that national forest. The hike I wanted to do, which I've done pieces of it many, many times, is called the Dam to Dam hike. And it goes from Croton Dam in the south to Houghton Pile Dam on the north end and stuff, and goes through many, all that national forest land. They allow for dispersed camping, which means, as long as you leave no trace, you can camp anywhere, 200 yards away from the trail or water or the rivers, or I think it's 2 miles away from one of the campgrounds. So that makes it a lot easier to be able to section hike whatever distance you want to do, because camping is available along the way and stuff. So that, and that's the hike I wanted to do this year. And at the beginning of the year, I decided that's was my goal. And I kind of wanted to see how fast I could do it. And I originally thought maybe 5 days, if I could do 26 miles a day, which is more than I had done before. So the longest backpacking hike I'd done before was 20 miles, and that was a push. And so doing 26 for 5 days in a row was a lot more. And I do enjoy listening to hiking podcasts a lot. Different ones, Adjuster Section Hiker Podcast, The Trail Show, Backpacking and Blisters. And then I found your show, Training for Trekking, and I just kind of really liked your philosophy on some of what you were doing with, the way to train for a long hike isn't just to walk a whole bunch, because you'll just get, and I'm paraphrasing you, so correct me if I'm wrong on some of this, but yeah, it isn't necessarily just go out and walk a whole bunch, because you just might wear out your body and you're not doing enough resistance to build up your muscles, and you're not fine-tuning the muscles that you need. And that just made a whole lot of sense to me. Rather than going out and doing a whole bunch of 25 or 30-mile hikes, I could do some of that, but I need to really build up muscles. And for me, balance is an issue, and also addressing the knee and especially my ankle pain that I had. You had a pretty cool couple of podcasts about those issues, and I got interested and reached out to you, and we kind of decided to work together in training for that. And it really helped. It really helped a lot. So.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, there's so much to break down there, and so much to dive into. So yeah, I'm sort of chomping at the bit right now.
Yeah.
Let's take it a step back, and you set yourself your eyes on this, this big challenge, the Dam to Dam, to do these, 5 days of quite a few miles. Like, what was the inspiration like there? Were you just like, what, that's just something that randomly appeals to me, or was there, what were you thinking when you came up with that goal?
Well, our North Country Trail Association each year for the last, I'm not sure, 4 or 5 years has done what they call the Hike 100 Challenge, which is just hike 100 miles of the North Country Trail in the year. And they give a patch and certificate. And that's been very popular, and I think got a lot more people involved in the trail. And a number of years ago, I think I did the Hike 100 Challenge, and I did a section of the same hike that I'm doing, a smaller section, 100-mile section, and I just barely got it done in 5 days, and that's 20 miles a day, and I was just totally wiped out. And I remember doing that and thought, well, what if I just did the whole, dam to dam hike instead of just my chosen 100 miles? Let's try to get it done the same period of time. And could I do that? And I'm kind of notorious for planning a hike and telling my wife this is what I'm going to do, and then all of a sudden I get on the trail and, hey, let's got this goal, but let's go do a stretch goal. Let's see if we can get this, 10-day hike down in 8.5 or something, and then notoriously revamping goals and pushing myself harder and that stuff. So, it's a beautiful section, and then I have another podcast I found was the Fastest Known Time podcast, and they're all over that new kind of phenomena where everyone's trying to go out and get a FKT, or fastest known time, for whatever trail out there, and that was some interesting discussion they had, and kind of looked into the Dam to Dam hike, and there was no fastest known time for the unsupported category. Unsupported means you carry everything with you, all your food. You get no help from anybody. You have to filter your own water, out of streams and lakes, and you get no support. There are some trail runners that put up some pretty phenomenal times that are in the supported category where they got help along the way, but there was no FKT for the unsupported. I thought, hey, I could do that, but I'm not going to just submit any old scrubby old numbers. I did it in 10 days or something. out there. So I wanted to make sure I had a good time on that. I figured, hey, 5 days to do 130 miles was respectable. And so that was my goal, and that's what we talked about when we worked together and stuff. So
Yeah, fantastic. And leading into it, when you sort of set your eyes on that, you're like, all right, 5 days, 130 miles, I'm going to make this happen. What did you sort of think? Like, what were the areas you knew you needed to work on to make that happen?
yeah, a little bit of joint pain issues. I have a left ankle that kind of bothers me. I find that especially when I'm doing pavement and or going faster than normal, it starts aching. And then my right knee has some issues similar to that too and stuff. So I knew that if I was going to do 130 miles, that those were going to be challenges, and I needed to address that. And we worked on some exercises for that helped tremendously. I also kind of learned on the trail too that for my knee issue, lower calf stretches did a ton of good to help relieve my knee pain. And I don't know, I didn't talk to you about this, Rowan, but is that because we're no longer that we're stretching out that muscle rather than being constricted? Is that why that happens like that?
Yeah, generally, like as a real generalization, if the calf is ever tight, it
Yeah,
tends to just force extra movement into the knee, which isn't like particularly a great thing. So the knee starts taking extra strain, extra pressure. But if you
yeah,
can sort of release the calf through a stretch or whatever it may be,
yeah,
then the knee starts sitting a little bit happier. And yeah, that definitely makes perfect sense there.
yeah. Cool. Well, that the stretching helped. Another issue I had was just general balance. I've never been great at that stuff. I use trekking poles on almost all parts except for maybe road walks, and I knew that to be safer and more comfortable, working on my balance it was important. Just muscle strength and stuff, and endurance. So I probably average normally prior to this year, maybe 17 miles a day is my average, anywhere from 14 to maybe 20 typically. But now had to do 26 to get this challenge done. So getting that endurance up. Food was something I know I need to work on because I think the food I carry is too heavy and probably not the right stuff. And we worked on that a bit to understand that, hey, going into hills and going to tough parts, carb up, hit a piece of candy or something, and that really did help a lot on that at times. So um, yeah, I also found that probably need to go, and if I did this kind of thing again, I need to add an extra hot meal a day to it. So normally breakfast is cold granola bar type thing, and then I was doing 2 hot meals a day. I think if I went to 3, that would be a whole lot better for not only the nutrition and the break, but also giving your muscles a chance to rest, and then doing stretching at the end of that to limber up to get back going again and stuff. So that's one change I would make for if I ever did something like this again is adding an extra meal in there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's that's such an important point, and just that pure, giving yourself a break, giving yourself that mental boost of another hot meal. Like, yeah, that's very interesting, mate.
Yeah. I found that if I took anywhere from 40 to 60-minute meal break, which seems like a long time, especially if you have to get a lot of miles in, that it was like I was so much faster, so much faster once I got going again and had energy and stuff. I'm like, well, this isn't good to be trudging through without food and to try to save time and not have that break. But then why don't you go take that break and fuel up and energize up and feel better and be happy and stuff. So
Mhm. And then let's talk a little bit about specifics with the training that you did through Summit Strength. So,
yeah,
you said you had all those areas to work through. What did your program look like to help with that?
I had a lot of variety. I like that. There was basically it gave us several exercise programs that we could get done on whatever day that week that we wanted to get it done. So you could kind of I could plan it around my schedule. If it was a little bit longer one or more intense or whatever that was, or if it was a good one to do go out with my wife and go for, the loaded pack walk with her, do it at a time that she was available to do that. But two of them, the home strength 1 and home strength 2, I think are probably the most viable ones probably for my training. It's a series of different exercises you give us to work on specific muscles, work on balance issues, work on core strength as well as leg strength and stuff, and found those valuable. Before getting with you, I did a lot of stair work, which improved which helped me a lot. But you had kind of helped me continue the stairs, but then transition to hills once the weather got better here in Michigan, and that was valuable to mix that up a little bit. So it isn't exactly the same muscles doing the stairs. It's now slightly different muscles or movement doing the hills and stuff. The ankle and shoulder exercise day was great because you could do that any day you wanted to and didn't take very long, but you knew it was targeting some specific things that I really needed to do. And the one I hated the most is that loaded pack walk. I think we moved that to interval thing too. So I think most of the problem reason I hated that was I used an older pack and my shoulders were just aching. But I've carried that weight in the current pack that I use, and it's not a problem. So I think if I were to redo that loaded pack walk, I think I would find a better pack to do that. So my shoulders, my neck muscles weren't so stiff, but I knew that was doing a lot of good for legs and how to do a march through, when you get tired and stuff. So, but I like the flexibility of being able to fit whatever exercise we needed into that specific day. I learned a lot about stretching too, which helped a ton. And continue to do that stuff, and I'm a lot more flexible than I was before. So, and I think that helped my knee and ankle pain as well. So,
and then was there anything different in there that you'd never really done before?
Well, I've done some stretching before, but it wasn't nearly as thorough or as accurate, or I'm not accurate may not be the word, but productive as what you had us do in there and stuff. So that was a huge, huge valuable thing to learn of what ones I should do, and go slowly and hold that lower calf stretch for 30 seconds. Don't just bounce down there and think you're actually stretching your thing. You're probably injuring yourself. The home strength exercises were new and were probably the most valuable part of the training on that and stuff. And it took a while, but they were. It was nice because we're in the middle of this COVID stuff, and we have a gym in our building here, but it's closed. So all those exercises are stuff we already had, just a couple bands that we needed to get, and it's stuff we could do right in our own apartment here and stuff. It wasn't needing to go out and find some weight machines or anything like that. So that was really nice and felt much more approachable and doable and not as intimidating as I think exercise can be to people that aren't professionals like you.
Oh, that's good to know. And I'll tell you what, even the professionals get intimidated sometimes. So I know how that goes. And then through the whole process, were there any particular speed bumps through like your preparations? And if so, what were they, and what did you do to overcome them?
Sure. There's a few of the exercises in the home strength 1 and home strength 2 that I just couldn't do just because I wasn't strong enough in that area. And so or I didn't have the right height of chair or stool for one of them, and you swapped out those exercises for something different that accomplished the same sort of thing. I still struggle with that side plank from the foot thing, And we just changed that to side plank from the knee. I think I'm back to kind of doing the side plank from the foot, but it's still tough. But you're like, hey, no worries, mate, is what I'd hear from you. And then I'd find the app in my phone that you swap that out for something different, and there'd be a video showing how to do that. And that was kind of a cool thing too, to be able to have the exercise thing in your phone, which is always with you, so you can see it. And then all the exercises had a video with it that showed you how to do it. Sometimes it's you, sometimes someone different, but there's an example of how to do it. And you could refer to that a few times to make sure, hey, am I getting this right and doing it right and stuff. So that was really a good part of the program, in my opinion.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh, that's good to hear there. And I think that's a pretty important point just to cover for anyone listening, in the sense that, on this podcast, I often talk about some of the exercises that I love. So whether it's, step downs or single leg deadlifts or glute bridges or whatever it may be.
Or the world's greatest. Now,
the world's
I have
greatest
to ask you, how did that get a name? Because it just feels like that's a sarcastic name for it, because it's tough.
No, so not quite sarcastic. So the world's greatest stretch, for anyone listening, is basically one of my all-time favorite stretches. You can look it up on YouTube. But the reason it's called that is it just hits so many different areas from one particular stretch. So it hits the front of your hips, hits your back glutes, it hits your upper back. And if you do the full stretch, which we weren't doing, but you'll probably see it on YouTube for anyone who looks it up, it has a bit of hamstrings in there as well. So yeah, it's not quite sarcastic, but it's one of my favorites.
That was a challenging one. We're getting better at that one now. So
how good. And what I was saying is, if anyone does struggle with particular exercises, but they know that they could potentially, they want to be doing something, they want to get the benefits out of it, just know that there's always probably 24 alternatives to the same exercise, which is going to give you similar results that'll fit around you. So whether it'll fit around your strength, your stability, your equipment, or whatever, your balance or whatever it may be, there's always another alternative. So I'll say right now, actually, if anyone is in that situation who does struggle with a particular exercise, they need an alternative. I've been mentioned on this podcast a few times recently, the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group, which is my private Facebook group, which we just talk all this stuff we talk about on the podcast. If someone does struggle with a particular exercise and they need help with a different alternative, join up in the group, post up in the group, and I'm more than happy to point you in the right direction. So little segue there, but I thought it was a good chance to mention that. But yeah, essentially beyond the training, Mark, were there any other things that you had to work on leading into this challenge?
Well, one was the food and nutrition area and stuff. So one of the I have a hiking partner. We do a lot of hiking together, and he was going to do this 5-day challenge, but then personal things came up and he just had to back out. So it turned into a solo adventure at the end there. But I'd done a couple longer jaunts with him this year, and one of them I just was super sluggish on. And we were evaluating it after the hike. He's like, you didn't eat enough food, Mark, and stuff. You're right. And so I needed to kind of face that nutrition thing. One thing I've learned from you is, carb up when you need it going into tough sections, or if you're running into a challenge there, and make sure you eat enough. So, I even like the night before you were like, don't forget to eat enough food, and so that was one thing I need to work on and learn better. And also learn the benefits of caffeine. It's kind of part of the story, maybe a little later we'll get into and stuff. So I generally don't do much coffee because it kind of gives me some heartburn, and then anything past 12 noon keeps me up till 2 a.m. So I'm real sensitive to that. So I'm always apprehensive of that. But, you in your training teach us that, hey, it's a great performance enhancing drug, I guess you could call it, to use on the trail and stuff. So, and I guess another thing I need to work on, not just food, nutrition, and that kind of stuff, is just the self-confidence. So, being a mid 50-year-old, slightly overweight, gentleman, going out and tackling something like this is a little intimidating. Back if I was in my 20s or something, it would be no big deal at all. But we've gotten older and nervous about injury and stuff, and just having the confidence to go out and attempt this and do it with enough confidence that I could get it done. So so that's kind of what I needed to work on that, as well as the knees and the physical and ankle especially stuff. So
and then let's talk about the challenge now. Now, before you actually hit the trail and before you took your first step, what was your intended mileage, per day? And then what was your sort of plan of attack on tackling that?
Yeah, sure. Well, the whole thing is 130 miles, and I want to get it done in under 5 days and stuff. So that would mean about 26 miles a day, which is kind of a cool number because that's about the length of a marathon. So mentally, I'm like, okay, I'm backpacking a marathon every day for 5 days, and that will get this done. And that's kind of cool. And, your non-backpacking friends kind of don't have a clue what mileage means, but if you can tell them it's a marathon a day for 5 days, like, oh, okay. So that was my original goal. I tracked it with my Garmin inReach GPS device to make it legitimate and stuff. So, and initially my goal, because the last day, the northernmost part of that hike is the hillier part, and I knew I'd be tired, I wanted to see if I could get a little bit ahead of my goal and leave the last day for just like 20 miles. So I wanted to try to do, 28, 27, 28, 27 miles in the first 4 days and leave 20 for the last day, and thinking, I think I would be okay then, probably trudging through the last bit of it, but I'd probably be okay getting that done in the 5-day goal and stuff. So that was my goal on that. He had all my maps marked out with potential water sources, as well as what might be decent areas to camp. I'd hike all of this at some point and kind of scouted a couple different areas that might be handy for camping at night when it's late and dark and stuff. So kind of had that all planned out of where I'd probably end up stopping. But then, I also tend to get on the trail and want to do stretch goals and push myself. So that kind of changed everything.
Yeah, it sure did. Well, let's talk through day one then. How did that play out? How did you feel in the first day, and then what were the challenges there?
Sure. Yeah. I think we got up at 4:30. We had about an hour drive. My wife dropped me off at 7 a.m. So I started it at 7 a.m. And it went really well. So I hiked 1 hour past sunset. So I hiked till about 9:30 that night. This is about 14 and a half miles. And I blew myself away what I got done. I got to the goal, which was 28 miles that day. And I'm feeling good. Why should I stop? Why not keep just going? You got your headlamp if it gets a lot darker, and let's just do it until it seems like it's a decent place to stop, camping wise, but also, distance wise and stuff. So I ended up doing my longest day ever. I ended up doing 32 and a half miles that day. It took me about 14 and a half hours to do that. And I felt really proud of myself. So why not continue if you're feeling okay?
Yeah, wow. That's a big day, mate. No,
it is.
No worries. You were proud of yourself there. Oh, good.
Yeah.
And then, so when did you decide you wanted to do this stretch goal that you ended up aiming for and push for the 4 days?
Sure. Lying in my hammock that night, that's what I used to camp in. Much more comfortable. I was doing the math and realized, hey, if I continue to do 32 and a half miles a day, knowing, hey, Mark, you probably can't. It's just a great first day. You could get this thing done in 4 days. So I said, well, that's interesting. Let's just see how this continues to go. and knowing I probably wouldn't be even close to that the next day because I'd be in recovery and the muscles would be tired and et cetera and stuff. So it was kind of in after day 2 that I kind of decided to push that, make an official push to 4 days, because day 2, I did the most miles I ever done. Ended up doing 34 miles, took me just under 17 hours to get that done. And had about 2.5 hours of night hiking in there, which I usually enjoy, especially if the moon's full, and it wasn't. But the trail looks different. You see bugs different. There's those little guys that glow, that reflect so much, bugs and stuff. And I've kind of learned not to worry about animals that attack you. There's, bears and stuff like that. There are some black bears in that Manistee National Forest, but they're more scared of people than anything. They usually see and take off and stuff. So that, the wildlife wasn't a fear and stuff. So had dealt with that enough hiking before. So kind of enjoyed the 2.5 hours of night hiking and ended up doing 34. So it was a kind of a crazy long day. And after that day, I'm like, well, right, I just did 32 and a half and then 34. I'm over halfway done on this thing. I could get this thing done in 4. So that's kind of when the realization is like, hey, you could do this. You can do your 4 days, and that will be really cool.
All right. So you've just done these 2 massive days worth of hiking. Describe to us the next couple of days then. What were the challenges there? What did you find you had to focus on? Like, how did you get through these, following up another couple of days of huge mileage?
Day 3 was really tough. I hit a wall in the morning and just had no energy. And I remember stopping by the side trail and making a hot breakfast for myself and eating that. And that was nice to take a break, but I got going. It's like, I'm sluggish. I'm tired. I'm not doing well and stuff. So I listened to advice that my wife gave me prior to leaving on the trip. That was, Mark, you tend to not think about your body in parts. You need to think about your body in parts. If you're miserable and you don't even know why. So go through a mental checklist of yourself as you're hiking, and how does this toe feel? How's that toe feel? How's my foot feel? And just go through every section of your body and how are you feeling? And I realized, okay, my nutrition level is fine, but I'm tired. I'm sluggish. And then I remembered advice that you, Rowan, had about using caffeine in the trail. And I had brought some instant coffee with me. And I think I can do this. It's early enough in the morning. I'll probably metabolize all this by the time I hit bed. And if I do hit close to my mileage goal, I'll be tired enough anyway. So why not take some coffee? So I made a double coffee, trail coffee in my water bottle and chugged that down. And that fixed it for me. But because the morning had done such slow miles, I only got 31 miles in that day. And in the 17 hours it took to just over 17 hours to hike that day and stuff. But still, I was not in terrible shape on that at all. So, that was day 3. That left me 32 and a half miles for the final day. So that was a tough day, and a day that I think I learned a lot about maybe adding that extra meal in there, about not hesitating using trail coffee, of making sure I stretch plenty, and just try to stay in a positive mindset of, maybe focus on what I got done instead of what I had ahead of me. And so learned a lot. I think sometimes these hiking excursions, especially solo hiking excursions, can help you learn about yourself. And it's one thing I enjoy about them. So day 4 was interesting. Got up, felt good in the morning, knew where there was this wonderful water source, this crystal clear Pine River it's called, and easy to get the water. And, you hesitate to even filter it, but you do, so I'm filtering water there. Light sprinkles start happening, like, oh, this is nice. It's going to cool it down a little bit and stuff. And then a few minutes later, those light sprinkles turned into just a massive thunderstorm, rainstorm, and just heaviest rain I've ever hiked in, and the thunder and the lightning and all that stuff. And of course, where's my raincoat, Rowan? It's packed in the bottom of my pack, of course, right? And but I did have my sheet of Tyvek that I use for a ground cloth kind of thing. I pulled that out and hunkered under that while the rain was coming down. Of course, standing underneath a giant white pine tree that, who knows if it get hit by lightning, but that eventually stopped. And I knew about a mile from there was a campsite that a local person maintains only for people hiking the North Country Trail. And he's got a picnic table, and he's got not a fire pit, like a brick oven or stove type thing. And he's got a privy and a bear pole, and it overlooks the Pine River there. And he caches water for hikers. Of course, I couldn't take no cache water because I just filled up, but also, it's an unsupported hike, so you can't take that kind of stuff. But at least allowed me a chance to have a picnic table, spread stuff out, cook some food, switch socks, wring out your shoes as best as you can, and kind of just regroup and stuff. And that was hugely helpful to be able to have that. A little bit later, the gentleman that owns it came out and talked to me and stuff. It's like, well, I could have let you into the garage here and let you stay dry. I was like, well, by the time I got to your place, it was all over with anyway. So that was a tough moment with the rain and the thunder, but having that chance to regroup on that private land was very helpful, and I just kept on going from there and stuff. So we're into the hardest day on day 4 as far as the hills and stuff go, and it's a good part of it is along what's called the Manistee River. There's a low part that kind of is a flat low part, and there was some blowdown that was just horrible to get over. Saw some kayakers and I told them I was jealous, and they said, where are you going and where are you coming from? I said, and Croton Dam to Hodenpile Dam. Like, whoa, that's a lot. It's like, yeah, I'm trying to set a record on it. It's like, good luck. So it's kind of cool to see them and get that positive feedback. Another thing that helped me on the trail was social media. As much as we, can complain at times about social media and all the negativity of that and stuff, I did post my trip on my Facebook, as well as a couple other hiking Facebook pages, and getting some positive feedback, when you had a chance to, when you found signal and could log into that, was really helpful and encouraging. And that was really nice on that stuff. So, yeah. So that night, kept on trudging through the hillier part there. Finally got to the dam at 1:57 in the morning. So it was about a 20-hour day, 32 and a half miles. I get there and I take an hour just to rest in the parking lot of the dam. And I look at my maps and realize that I had misread my maps and thought there was a way to walk across the dam, but of course there isn't. So it was 2 more miles to the campground that I was going to camp at and get picked up in the morning and stuff. So it was after getting there about 2 a.m. and resting an hour to 3 a.m. and then having 2 more miles to go to look for an open campsite in the campground. It was a long day. So, but it felt good to get it done.
Yeah. Those last 2 miles just to taunt you there, that'd have been tough getting yourself through.
And the thing is, there's I missed. I thought I could go down this steep bank to get to this. It's really cool. It's a wood suspension bridge that goes over the Manistee River. It's an iconic thing for the Manistee National Forest, but I either had to go back an extra half-mile loop around, but I thought, I could go down this little hill here. Well, of course, I slid and fell and scraped and all that stuff, but I got there without having to do that extra mileage either. So
just a little drama to finish things off, hey?
That's right. Yeah. I need a little bit more dirt in my skin,
So what was in the end? What was the official time?
The official time was 3 days, 18 hours, 53 minutes, and 34 seconds.
Wow.
Yep. So
There you go.
just a hair over 90, almost 91 hours, just shy of 91 hours on that. So yeah, yeah. At the time, I said I'll never do this again. My hiking partner called me on Sunday, day 4 in the morning, right after I got done cleaning up after the rainstorm, and it was great to talk to him. He was very encouraging, and he's like, "Hey, Mark, next year you and I can go out and do that together and beat your time." Like, I am never ever doing this hike as a speed hike in my life. It was way too much to attack, but I'm glad it's done and stuff. So
Yeah, fair. So yeah, so on that then, like after it was all done, how did you feel? Like what was going through your head? And then after all that, like how did you celebrate once you got off the trail?
yeah, yeah, it was exciting to realize that I beat my goal, and I kind of beat it by a day, and like 20% practically, So that was really kind of cool. You're utterly exhausted. You finally got your hammock set up and you're laying in there trying to fall asleep, but you're like excited because hey, someone's going to pick you up in the morning and you got a decent meal ahead of you, and excited because like I got this thing done, and I trained and I worked hard for months doing this training, and I accomplished my goal, and I kind of beat my goal in a big way and stuff. So it was it felt great, and it's a confidence booster in a lot of different ways. And whatever someone's goal is, it doesn't have to be setting an unsupported FKT. It'd be just like going out and doing a particular hike, or going out and getting your mileage up from 8 to 9 miles, whatever it is. It's like we got to learn to celebrate that stuff. There's so much negativity in our world, and so many ways we get attacked in our own heads for bringing ourselves down. We got to find some of the stuff to say, hey, this might not be a great day at work, or something may not have gone great with a client, but I just did this too, and I'm okay, and that's good, and I accomplished that. On that. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more with that. I think in my life, one of the most significant pieces of advice I got from actually one of my old clients, but he was a pretty successful businessman. And when I first started up with Summit Strength, we used to talk quite a bit. And he told me that you really need to, whenever you're aiming for anything, whether it's business, whether it's training, whatever it is going on, you need to celebrate all the little wins. So whether or not, like, we can't always do an NFKT, every month, but every step along the process where you have a win, where something goes well for you, where, as you said, you put an extra mile on your mileage, or maybe you wake up one morning and you get out of bed and you're feeling good, or whatever it is, but you celebrate that in some way or another. And I think that was one of the most incredible pieces of advice I've ever had. And I think it's
that's
such an
great
important
advice.
thing.
Yeah, and to be able to get over our own heads and have the discipline to celebrate that rather than drag ourselves down. No, it was nothing. That's great advice. Yeah.
So the big question now is, what's next on the list, mate? What are you aspiring to
Yeah.
moving forward?
Yeah. Well, a couple things. One is the North Country Trail. There's our state is made of two big peninsulas. There's the lower peninsula where I live, and there's the upper peninsula, which is quite desolate and quite remote and very wildernessy. So I have done all the North Country Trail in the lower peninsula, which is about 600 miles, and there's about 550 in the upper peninsula. I've done about half that. So my hiking partner and I kind of have a plan to do two more hikes to finish the 247 miles we have left, probably this coming summer, 2021, and then hopefully 2022. So then we will have finished the largest state of the North Country Trail, which is like 1150, I think, in mileage. Yeah, that's quite an accomplishment. I would be proud of that. So that's near term. After Michigan comes a state called Wisconsin, and that's about a 210-mile section. I kind of like to go out and see if I can do that one spot. And then after Wisconsin comes Minnesota. And Minnesota, I don't know if you ever heard of the Superior Hiking Trail, which is fabulous hiking section of the North Woods of Minnesota. Goes along the northern shore of Lake Superior, which I think is the world's largest freshwater lake, and it's just beautiful wilderness area and stuff. So that's that's kind of like a long distance hike, through hike type of thing that would be awesome to do in a few years. It's about 310 miles. None of this stuff I'm trying to do fast. Just have fun. Just get through it. But that's just a beautiful trail. Tons of waterfalls, and you get some glances of Lake Superior. There's a beach hike along it, and just some great woodsy northern woods type stuff. So that's kind of what's on my radar. I thought about, as much as I said to my hiking partner Paul on the phone, I will never do this hike as a speed hike again. I'm kind of been thinking, maybe I'll go out and do this whole dam to dam hike every year and just do it different. So maybe thinking next year I might do a dam to dam hike, but you can hike only from sunrise to sunset, and you got that maybe 15 hours or 12 hours, depending on the time of the year, to get your mileage done. Not trying to speed hike it, just doing that, or maybe another year doing it as only hiking night hikes from sunset to sunrise, and then resting, sleeping, relaxing during the day, and poking around, having some fun in the woods at that. So that's kind of what I've been kind of thinking. We'll see what turns up. I need to maintain being in shape and trimming up this spring to be able to do that kind of stuff. So,
yeah, fantastic. There's a few awesome challenges on the list there. That's exciting stuff, mate.
Yeah.
Oh,
hopefully
good.
it won't be yeah.
Well, before we wrap things up, I think there's been a fantastic episode, and it's been so great getting your insights to all of this. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything that sort of you were wanting to cover, or any other tips or insights that you thought might be valuable for people listening to it today?
Give yourself permission to do what you need to do to get your goal done. So that last day, that last night hike, which is 5.5 hours of night hiking I was really tired. And at one point I just laid down in the middle of the trail, laid out my ground sheet, my Tyvek, and grabbed a pillow and slept for 10 minutes, set my alarm, and that was a world of good to refresh myself. So that's what I needed to do. And you got to, think about, what do I need to do to get this thing done or accomplish my goal? In a bigger sense, I just want to thank you for a great program. You did a fantastic job of getting me ready for my adventure, and being able to tailor those exercises to what my needs were based on the videos that I uploaded to your website, where I was doing some of these exercises, and you could identify, well, this is weak and this needs help, and he's strong in that area, probably weak in most areas and just very weak in other areas. But to be able to have a tailored program, and it worked for me. I got my goal done and then some on that stuff. So totally worth the expense, totally worth the effort. And I feel so much better about my hiking passion now, having accomplished this, and knowing that I can get better. And just because I'm older, that's okay. You can still hike. You don't have to be 20 something AT Appalachian Trail through hiker to have some pretty cool stuff. So huge thanks to you. Huge thanks to my wife for her support, encouragement, her advice. And thanks to my hiking partner, Paul, for doing a whole bunch of training hikes with me this year, and our trips to the UP and stuff. Looking forward to continuing those and stuff. So.
Oh, fantastic, mate. Well, I really appreciate those kind words. And I'm so glad that, the program helped you and the training helped you and got you where you needed to go. And I'm so glad that you had the support from your wife and your hiking partner as well to help you through. That's really amazing to hear. But thank you so much for coming on today, Mark. It's been a really, really good episode. It's been really interesting hearing about this particular challenge that you set yourself, and sort of the insights and the inspirations. And because I know a few people listening to this podcast do have similar things on their mind, and I think it's going to be very, very valuable for them to sort of have a listen to someone who's officially a record holder of a fastest known time. So thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been absolutely incredible, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ron, for the opportunity to share my story. I really appreciate it.
So there we go, guys. I really do hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and I hope you've got a little bit of insight and a little bit of value out of hearing Mark's journey and Mark's story to complete this such an amazing challenge. Now, if you were wanting to get a little bit extra information around the training that Mark worked through, I highly encourage you to join up on the Training for Hiking and Trekking Facebook group. Now, as I said previously, there you'll find loads of extra information about training techniques for hiking adventures, challenges like this, nutrition tips, and a whole bunch of other things. And on top of that, if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the